Okay, so my t-shirt says guns and coffee. Well, that's two of my favorite things. Um, I like the ones that say Jesus, guns, and coffee. Well, this is going to be a quick video, not a 20-minute one, but I want to talk to you about our rights, our privileges. We have so many privileges in America. I think, yes, I believe there's a force coming against our rights. Um, I think there's things coming down the pike, so to speak, that are would be able to shake us to our core. Um, but specifically right now, I'd like to talk about our Second Amendment rights. And I have heard all sides from people who are kind of in the middle and lean a little one way or lean a little the other, people that are so extreme this way or so extreme that way. And, you know, I probably am not going to change anyone's mind, but hopefully I at least can give you food for thought. And, you know, when our Constitution was written, which was founded on Christian principles, one of the things that they included in our Constitution was our Second Amendment rights. And, you know, as that was added, if you read not only the Constitution, but many of the writings of our forefathers of our country, it was that right was so that if it was ever necessary to stand against a tyrannical government, we would be able to. It is also personal. You know, if someone endangers your physical well-being, you have a right to defend yourself and your family and your loved ones. And I am a firm believer in that. And I'm a firm believer in getting trained. If you own a weapon, especially a handgun, and you don't know how to use it, I say shame on you, honestly. And if you're not training with it, shame on you. I hope you never need it, because you probably, if you're not training with it, you probably would never be able to have it out, use it, and save yourself or your family. And that's the truth, because the fact of the matter is, even for those who train with it, there's a lot of chances in a lot of ways that you would not have your firearm out in time and stop the threat. And I had a very amazing, heart-wrenching conversation with a beautiful, wonderful young man today that served in our military, was actually part of war. You know, thank God a lot of our military never actually sees war, and I know that to be true. Never sees any kind of action. And I don't mean action in a good way, I mean hot action in battle. And, you know, as a mom of, now my sons aren't soldiers, but I trust my sons to defend everything around us. There isn't one of them that would not stand up and defend their families, their children, us. But I'm talking about going into battle for our military. And like I said, many of our soldiers never see battle, and thank God for that. But those that do live with things that we who have not served, nor have we been in a battle or an altercation, say, where we had to defend ourselves with a weapon, or use a weapon on someone else for the greater good. We don't know the consequences to that. Whoops, sorry, that was my phone. We don't know the consequences to that. And in listening to him today speak of things that he will never outlive the memory of those things. You know, and as we were discussing those things, we were talking about how much they train when they're soldiers, the nonstop training. And not only the training, but the logistics of training. He mentioned to me, this was a statement he made. He said, you know, in working out the logistics, when you're training, you know, they're the units, so to speak, are talking to each other. People know what's going on. There's a plan. There's a regiment. There's, you know, things are handled logistically. So he said, you know, when they're talking, they're like, we have 800 guys over here with guns training, and your 800 guys are over here with guns training, and we're going to make a move. This is what we're doing. It's not haphazard. That isn't done without thorough communication in those areas. And as I was listening to him speak of those things, we even were talking about muscle memory and about them having to pull a weapon, and in certain training they did where they failed against a perpetrator because it just happened too fast. And these are people that train every day. In one form or another, they're training every day. But again, that training with weapons is something that they do on an ongoing basis, very seriously, very tactically, and yet they would fail. So to think that, you know, those of us who train, and we do train, we target shoot. I have not encountered moving targets yet, which I highly recommend and look forward to doing. Because in any number of situations, you know, your target isn't going to be standing that far away, holding still, saying, come and get me. You have an encroaching perpetrator who would become a target. And so to think that those that don't train at all would find themselves in a position of handling their weapon well, making good decisions, you know, doing those kinds of things, that just isn't right or feasible. And so it made me, you know, think about those things. You've heard me, if you know me at all, you know I believe in our Second Amendment rights. I believe in concealed carry. I think background checks are fine, but I'll tell you what, the people that are murdering people with handguns or with, you know, ARs or whatever, they aren't people that are getting background checks anyway. You aren't stopping those things. You aren't stopping the cartel. You're not stopping the people that are doing things illegally, which are the people that are going to perpetrate upon innocent victims. They're not the ones. So I'm not against background checks. I just think that when you put certain things in play about handles or the number of ammunition, I promise you, in California, I think 8 rounds is what we can have. Gosh, I need to look it up again. Whatever. Yeah, I think it's 8. But like, you can't have a 30-round magazine in the state of California in your AR or whatever, you know, your rifles, those kind of things. Well, those are not the people that are out doing mass murders at schools or in a theater or in a church. That is not how they got the weapons. That's not how they got the ammunition. That's not how they got the magazines, the, you know, maximum kind of capacity magazines. They didn't go down to their local gun dealer, purchase a gun legally, have a background check done, you know, buy the things that are California legal. That is not who is doing these kinds of crimes. So anyway, with that said, I could go off on that for hours. But the point being, if you're going to own a firearm, and I suggest that you do, I really believe Americans, if you are mentally able to own a firearm, and you could say, well, there it is. You know, there's so many people are not mentally capable of owning a firearm. Well, again, if someone who's not mentally stable is buying a firearm, they're generally not doing it through a gun dealer. They're doing it on the black market. So anyway, with that said, if you're going to own a firearm, I would suggest with such passion that you begin to train, and that you train consistently, you train ongoing. You don't stop. There's not a time to stop. I have friends right now that are in their late 70s who have their concealed carry. They are sharp as a tack. They are training, and they are having to qualify and get their permit all over every 2 years, just like the rest of us. And it makes me so, I don't know, proud is the word, but proud of them for putting in the time and the effort and the energy to do that, to see to it that they themselves are protected. They're both small. In a natural sense, they could probably easily be overtaken by a couple of bullies. But they are seeing to it that they do their best to protect themselves, because that is their inalienable right given to them by the U.S. Constitution. And I stand by that. I stand by our Constitution. I stand up for our Constitution. For all the problems we have in America, and we do have plenty, I still know that we live in the greatest nation in the world. And one thing that would help us is if the Church of Jesus Christ, meaning those who are believers, would stand up for righteousness and speak up for righteousness. I'm not talking about saying what you say on Facebook. I'm talking about standing up and voting, going to the polls, speaking to people, and not fighting with people. I'm not talking about having arguments. The young man I spoke to today that just I treasure his family. I don't know that we see things much the same. I mean, humanity is important to both of us greatly. And I'm not saying that we're totally different either. I'm just saying our perspectives are different. But you know, I heard some things today that were so enlightening to me, because I've not walked in his shoes. I've not walked in the shoes of a soldier. I've not walked in the shoes of a police officer. And I've always said that. You know, when people were coming down on police so hard for so many things, I'm not saying there aren't some that are bad, but I'll tell you what, they put their lives on the line every day. And we live in a world that is so much more dangerous than it was in the 1950s. It really is. I commend them. I honor them. I back them 100%. And hopefully the bad ones get weeded out. Hopefully, and you know, I know that they don't all by any means. But the fact of the matter is, I have not walked in their shoes. And so I don't know what it's like to come up against that on a daily basis. But I do know that we live in a great nation, but we have responsibilities. And I hope and pray that we take those responsibilities seriously. I hope and pray that we know that we have a responsibility. And if you don't believe in the things that are being fed to our children and the indoctrination that's happening concerning socialism and things, man, all you got to do is read some historical things on Hitler and see how close this pattern is to that pattern. Anyway, with that said, I love you. I love our nation, and I love our Constitution. And another thing I'll say right now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I stand with Israel. I will always stand with Israel. You won't convince me otherwise. And, you know, again, do I wish certain things were different? I do, but I will stand with Israel. God bless you. I love you, and I will see you again soon.